Frank, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, very well. Nice day for it.
And for boxing.
It's beautiful. You've been watching the Euros?
Yes, I have. We got a win, didn't we? First time ever, isn't it? We kicked off a win, so
yes,
I'm delighted
exactly,
with that.
Yeah.
Delighted with that. And there's been some, I don't know, I think we're in with a chance. I was quite surprised at a couple of the games, like Spain and, a few of them. We've done all right.
Yeah, I think so. Well, the final's July the 11th, and you're putting on a tasty undercard for that on July the 10th. We
are, and it's a big night for us back at the Albert Hall. I'm really looking forward to that. It's their 150 years as a venue, their anniversary.
Is it?
Yeah, so I went to the very first concert there. I remember that back then. So it's.
Who was that then?
150 years ago.
Yeah, I see.
Pay attention. Anyway, no. So we're. So we're looking forward to being back in there, and it's we've got a good night there. Just a little bit, try to sort out where we are with the fans, because obviously the announcement yesterday from the Prime Minister pushing it back to the 21st of July before any get-togethers or gatherings. Yet they're allowing Wimbledon full capacity on the 10th and Euros 50% on the same date. So we will be pushing out from our perspective to ensure that we get the same treatment.
Yeah, I saw that. It just doesn't make any sense, does it?
No. Really strange.
But as it stands, if they don't, if you don't win, arguably the biggest fight of the 10th, then it'll be 1,000 fans, won't it?
Yeah, which is really not great for us.
No, absolutely. Although 1,000 fans at the last show sounded like about
6,000. It sounded a sellout, didn't it?
Yeah, that was a great night. But we'll move on to this fight. So Anthony and Lyndon. Both up here today, but obviously not fighting each other this time.
No, they both got. They've been out for a while, haven't they? So they both got their respective fights against two undefeated fighters. So they can't afford to slip up. Lyndon's ranked now #1 in the world, and is the mandatory challenger to Joe Smith. So he won't want to be looking to slip up in his fight. And obviously, Anthony's coming back after his loss, and feels he's got a few things to prove. So they're going to have to be at their best.
Yeah, it kind of feels like all roads are leading to a rematch eventually. I mean, if and when that does happen, would you see that being the next fight after this?
Well, that's what I'd like to see happening. That's where we're at.
I mean, it seems. I mean, I guess fairly obviously that neither of the two was saying too much about the rematch because they want to focus on the next fight.
I agree with that. I mean, that's what they have to focus on. Otherwise you get complacent. All they need to do is look at the guy their respective opponents. On the 10th, they cannot afford to slip up at all.
Yeah, bad news for you if they did.
Bad news for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. But one thing Anthony did say was that obviously he was the angriest I've seen him after the first fight. Was like not happy, but since then calmed down, watched it back, and realised that actually there's maybe one or two things that he could have done differently.
It was right. I mean, I said to him at the time, watch it back. You need to go and watch it back.
Yeah, and he's obviously what he said he was going to make changes. He's brought in a new coach to help out him and Tunde. James Cook, obviously a great fighter in his time as well.
James was very experienced, and he'll bring a lot of experience to him. But Lyndon and with Pat Barrett, who manages and trains him. I mean, Pat's no slouch either. So it's quite a battle of the trainers as well as the fighters. Yeah,
but as boxing is business, and obviously we hype it up. But you saw them, Lyndon and Anthony embrace there. You saw Tunde and Pat have
they're professionals. There's respect there for each other. For trainers as well.
I mean, Anthony was saying with Lyndon that him and, once the dust had settled, they exchanged messages on Instagram.
Yeah.
And that Lyndon messaged him, about Anthony's terrible losses he suffered last year as well.
Yeah.
So it is, I guess it is the old cliche, but it's business, isn't it, really?
It is business, and we all understand that.
But as far as you're concerned, the rematch is going to happen?
They're going to fight, provided they win their respective fights, we get it on.
And I know, so I don't want to put you in a tricky position, but who do you think the bookies would have as favourites for the next fight?
I don't know. I mean, it was a tough fight last time, and a lot of people had different views. It depends how you look at the styles and all that. What style you favour. I suppose Lyndon will go in as the favourite, having won the last one.
And what do you think, from Anthony's point of view, that he would need to do differently to get the win this time?
Win.
Say again?
Win. That's what he's going to have to do. What's he going to do? Yeah, he's got to deal with. He had to deal with a jab. I mean, you know, Lyndon said that he had an injury as well during the fight, so you know how different he's going to be when they get it on. But more importantly, they've got to get this. They've got to get these two fights out of the way.
Yeah, I was just interrupted by Tunde speaking there. Unlike him to...
Yeah, it is. You said it.
Unlike him to have a word or two in the background. But we'll soldier on. But yeah, I mean, basically, whatever happens, you know, provided these guys come through the fight, it's going to be a bit of a tasty rematch.
Hey, shh. Go on.
But yeah, if and when the rematch does happen, If and when the rematch does happen, we're going to be looking for a tasty fight that night. Oh
yeah, absolutely, and it's you know, the winner. Well, Lyndon's in the #1 spot. The winner will get a shot at the world title, no doubt about it.
And then you've got Callum Johnson in the mix there. Do you see that in the future?
Well, that's another one not overlooking. It's just a shame we wanted him on this show, but he had a hand injury. Otherwise, we had the three of them out. And I'd love it. He's going to fight in the late summer. Get him out again. I mean, he had an explosive fight, didn't he? And what a debut that was for BT, seeing him in action. So he's in the mix too. And you know, I look at. I think we've got three fantastic British light heavyweights who are all world class. And then across the road you've got Buatsi. Well, let's get these fights on.
Yeah, I mean, it's somehow becoming like the glamour division almost now.
Well, it is, isn't it? We've got a couple of good youngsters coming through as well now.
Yeah. No, it's as you say, July 10th. I mean, you know, they're no slouches. The guys they're fighting, they're both unbeaten.
Correct.
So they've got to get through that.
They've got to be at their best. Cannot be complacent. Can't afford to fall over. They've got to really work hard and come through.
And for Andy as well, it's like, you know, after all that he's been through, I think, you know, boxing is almost a little bit of normality for him.
Yeah, I mean, he had a bad year last year. The losses to his family to the COVID, same as, you know, terrible for a lot of people. But I mean, you know, was it a treble blow with that? That's, you wouldn't want to think about that, would you?
Yeah, you can't even imagine that, can you? I mean, and I know sort of, you know, he took some time out just to, you know,
which he needed to do, yeah. And probably be with his family and give him some support.
But I mean, boxing gets a bad press, but there's a lot of good that it does. I mean, you know, looking at Lyndon as well, that, you know, the tragedies he's suffered. I mean, there's a lot of guys I speak to who could have gone either way.
Look, boxing, football gets good press, it gets bad press. I mean, everything's good press. But boxing, everybody thinks it's an easy target, and it's not. You know, boxing does a lot of good, as you just said, and it gives people, you know, certain people who, you know, don't have in some cases the education you would like to have. They don't have the opportunities that you get, but through their God-given talent as boxers, can go and make themselves a better life for them, for their families. You know, set themselves up for life and give them some sense of purpose, some discipline, some whole thing. And if you get fighters who dedicate themselves to that and come through, and they're great citizens. So, you know, ours is a good sport. At its best, it's a really, really good sport, and there's nothing like it. And I think you speak to any journalist, again, you're getting a little bit of criticism every now and then, but when it gets down to the nitty-gritty and they speak to these guys, they all love them.
Yeah, I can't think of
they're accessible.
Yeah.
You couldn't go up to a footballer after a football match and just put a microphone under his nose and ask him, well, what do you think about, you missed that pass, or you did this, or whatever, or a tennis player. It just doesn't happen. They go and sit down, compose it. Boxer, he's had 12 rounds, absolutely could be in a brutal fight, and then a microphone's under his nose, and he's saying, you know, it could be the end of his career, whatever it may be, and they respond to it. What athletes do that? There aren't any. There's none. That's what they are. That's what they are. They're one-offs as sportsmen.
I can't think of it. I mean, with football as an example, I mean, the tennis players, they're sort of mollycoddled from teenagers. These guys, I mean, I don't know another sport where there's so many stories of, you know, if they hadn't been a boxer, then they would have been in jail or might not even have been in.
Yeah, made a different path in their life, but it's given them an opportunity, and it's a fantastic sport, and let's get it right, it's a working class sport. you know, there aren't, you know, where I come from in Islington, there weren't too many golf clubs. You boxed or you played football in the street. That's what you do. Or you went to the local boxing club, and that's with a lot of inner city areas. And as I say, you know, in this day and age with obesity, with this knife crime, all these things, I'm not talking about professional fighters, but gyms have been brilliant for the communities and getting kids some focus in their life.
Absolutely, and a lot of these guys are helping with that as well.
Exactly.
To help,
exactly, putting a bit back, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm just going to move on to Fury Wilder, funnily enough. So getting close now. Yeah,
they got the presser tonight, our time. Get it on, get it out of the way. I mean, it's on the 24th, and I just want to see Tyson get in there and do the business, and then clear the decks to hopefully do bigger and better things.
You don't think there's a danger that he might be a bit complacent about this?
I don't think he'd be complacent, but there's a danger that he's in there with a guy who's the biggest punching heavyweight in the last 30, 40 years. He can punch, and he's put Tyson on the floor twice in the first fight. You know, the last time he went down, I didn't think he was going to get up, but he did. Tyson won't be complacent. He can't afford to be, and Wilder, it'd be interesting to see what he can bring to the table now after that, because he got the subsequent fight. Tyson done a job on him.
Yeah, that's the thing, and Tyson, as we know, enjoys winding people up as well. As he says, he's living rent-free in his head.
I think it'll be a bit lively tonight, that's for sure.
Yeah. And Deontay made a couple of changes in his camp, rightly or wrongly. Alex Scott obviously been brought in.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be...
Well, we will see it. You know, I thought his corner done him a real favour in pulling him out. And it was, you know, that's what a real sensible trainer, cornerman does. He's there to look after the best interests of the fighter. And had he not pulled him out, he'd have got badly hurt. He lived to fight another day.
Yeah, and hopefully these guys will make sure he wears a lighter suit to the ring this time as well.
Well, the lighter suit, the armour, and whatever else it was, the 10,000 other reasons that he got beat, whatever they were. He got beat because he fought an outstanding heavyweight, who I think will go down to be, in his legacy, to be the best heavyweight of his generation.
And God willing that Anthony comes through, and Joshua...
We'll all be cheering him, won't we? We'll all be tuned in and cheering him on.
Yeah, he comes through his fight, because that's certainly no gimme either, is it?
It isn't. You know, anything can happen with these big guys, and you know, and he's wobbled in a few of his fights, hasn't he? So we'll see. But look, let them get their respective fights out of the way, and then see what happens.
Yeah, because we do all want this super fight.
But I don't. You know what? I don't want to go down that road anymore, because it's become a bore, and it got completely out of hand with all the comments that were being made on a daily basis and so forth. Didn't need it, but anyway, it is what it is, and you move on, and let's deal with what we got. Deal with what's in front of us now, and from our perspective, it's Deontay Wilder, and from their perspective, they got to get rid of Usyk.
And how do you see the Fury Wilder fight going in heart and hearts?
I think it'll stop him again.
But as you sort of alluded to, it's the famous Mike Tyson saying everyone's got a plan till they get punched.
Well, they have, haven't they? You know, they pull one of these, and the thing is with Wilder, he throws punches from very unorthodox angles and positions. So we'll see.
But then there's not many like Fury.
No, he does the same thing but better.
He's a one-off, isn't he? Okay, mate. Just a couple more before we go. Ponce, big statement win that.
Wasn't it? You know, it's great. He signed up with us. My son Francis brought him on board, and he made he made a statement, didn't he? And he's now the IBF mandatory to Josh Taylor.
Yeah. So, what are the plans for him in the future? I mean, if that...
Well, that'll obviously be happening. But you got Jack Catterall, who's the WBO mandatory, and that was it. The fight with Josh's last fight was based upon the fact that he'd make his first defence against Jack, and that's what we were all working on.
Yeah, because I mean, Jack, you know, did the decent thing, if you like, stepped aside to give Josh his chance to make history, which he grabbed with both hands. Yeah. And now, you know, the only decent thing to do, really, you would think,
is to fight him. Yeah.
Yeah. And how would you see that one going? Because obviously Jack's another one of your boys.
Well, Jack's he's an extremely good fighter, and Josh is an extremely good world champion. I mean, you know, it's a British dust-up. Nothing better than them. All British. They're always the best fights to watch. So there'll be a lot of passion there, and It'd be interesting.
Okay, before we go, I'm just going to leave you at Brad Foster, won the purse bid for Jason
Yeah.
Cunningham, European title. You must be quite excited by that.
We would be dangerous if we had the zones money, wouldn't we?
But I know that you rate Brad very highly.
I do. Oh, look what he had, no amateur record. He's won a Lonsdale belt, was it in his 14th fight? I mean, that is a Commonwealth. That's a bit of a statement. He's gone under the radar from that perspective. He's a good fighter.
You took the words right out. I was just going to say he's gone under the radar. A, because of that, and B, because he's like maybe not as vocal as some of the other boxers, and he's not shouting from the rooftops.
And people don't. And I keep saying, look at his amateur experience, 0.
And what do you think? Do you think there's, obviously he's going to fight for the Europeans?
It's a tough fight for him. It'd be a good fight for him. He comes through that, then he'd fight for a world title soon.
Yeah, I was going to say literally the world.
But he's only had 14, 15 fights.
Yeah. But okay, another one to look forward to. But in the meantime, July the 10th.
July
Why
the
should
10th.
people tune in?
Because you're going to see two of our best light heavyweights out there. We've got another 2 around who are hanging around as well in Callum Johnson, and we've got these 2 fighting undefeated fighters. Can't afford to slip up. Got to be at their best. So they're going to have to put performances in, which should be good fun for the viewers to watch. I think there'll be 2 good fights.